Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight I'm sharing a story that still gives me chills whenever I think about it. It's a true story from my childhood, a night when I saw something I can't explain to this day. So grab a blanket, turn down the lights, and let's dive into this terrifying tale. Growing up, I lived in a small, quiet town in the middle of nowhere. Our house was old, the kind of house that creaked with every step and had a history no one really talked about. It was surrounded by woods, and at night the darkness felt alive. You could hear the wind rustling through the trees, the occasional owl hooting, and sometimes, if you listened closely, sounds that didn't belong. I was about 8 years old at the time. My younger brother and I shared a room at the far end of the house. It was a cozy room, but it always felt a little off, especially at night. One evening after finishing my homework, I went to bed like any other night. I remember pulling my blanket over my head. It was one of those old, holy blankets that had been in the family forever. I thought nothing of it and fell asleep. But around 3 a.m., something woke me up. At first, I thought it was just the house settling, but then I heard it. A low hissing sound, like air escaping from a tire. My heart started pounding. I stayed perfectly still, listening. That's when I noticed something strange, a faint white smoke creeping under the door. I couldn't believe my eyes. The smoke wasn't normal. It was thick and glowing, almost like it had a mind of its own. Slowly, it began to take shape. I watched in horror as it formed into the figure of a human skeleton. It was translucent, glowing faintly in the dark, and it moved like it was alive. The skeleton figure stepped closer to my bed, then stopped, as if it was testing me. It took a few steps forward, then back, then forward again. I wanted to scream, to wake up my brother, but I was frozen. I just lay there, staring at it through the holes in my blanket, praying it would go away. The figure stayed in the room for what felt like hours. It wasn't until just before dawn that it began to fade. First, its body disappeared, leaving only its shoulders. Then, even those vanished into thin air. By the time the first rays of sunlight peeked through the window, the room was empty again. But I was still paralyzed with fear. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. I just lay there, trembling under the blanket until my mom came to wake us up. As soon as I saw her, I burst into tears and told her everything. After that night, I couldn't sleep alone. For weeks, I slept in my parents' room. Every night, I'd hear strange sounds, like the hiss of the smoke, or the clatter of footsteps outside my door. It felt like the house was alive, and I was constantly on edge. My family didn't talk much about it, but I later found out that others had experienced strange things in the house too. My brother once heard whispers in the hallway, and my mom swore she saw shadows moving in the corner of her eye. It was like the house had a secret, and we were all too scared to uncover it. Looking back, I realized that we weren't as mindful of our spiritual practices as we should have been. We didn't say prayers before bed or protect ourselves in the ways our grandparents had taught us. That experience taught me the importance of staying connected to something greater, whether it's faith, family, or just the belief that there's more to this world than what we can see. Even now, as an adult, I can't forget what happened that night. It's a memory that stays with me, a reminder of how real and powerful the unknown can be. So if you ever find yourself in an old, creaky house in the middle of nowhere, just remember, sometimes the scariest things aren't in the dark, they're in the shadows we can't explain. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever experienced something like this, let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more chilling tales. Until next time, stay safe, and maybe keep a light on tonight. If you thought this story was terrifying, just wait until you hear about the 3 friends who faced demons in the desert. Imagine being miles away from civilization, surrounded by nothing but sand and silence, and then realizing you're not alone. What they saw that night will haunt you forever. Click here to watch their story, if you dare.